K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. K98talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98talk.com.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Wondering why you're up early with us on a Sunday morning making a cocktail? News lately got you drinking? Hung over from the mainstream media by Sunday? We are, and we got you covered.
We sure do. We got your hangover cure for those weekly news blues. So sit back, top off your mimosa, and add some Baileys to that coffee.
Take a match to your copy of the New York Times. Light, funny, and oh yeah, news with booze.
And a lot of laughter.
Welcome to Bloody Marys and Broadsheets.
And good Sunday morning, everybody. So glad you're with us. And this is Stacy. And instead of JD today, I have Lou from Red Nation Rising joining me. JD's out at a family reunion. So, Lou, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I can't do the JD voice, and I can't be as funny as JD, but I'll do some giggling and less yelling.
All right. Yep. And actually, you are just as funny as JD in a different way.
Thanks, Stacey.
Having spoken to you quite a bit. But anyway, this morning we've got a whole bunch of fun stuff to talk about. I have found out in the last several days I am referred to as what is called now a cuck-servative. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. And, more of the circus, I guess, for lack of a better word, in the mainstream media. So, but first, before we go into that, as always on a Sunday morning, we have the weekend update brought to you by our friend Eric Williams over at the barbedwiresatire.com. Drudge reported this week that Hillary's poll numbers are suffering a summer slump. Swing state voters don't trust her, and she is now trailing 3 Republican presidential candidates in head-to-head matchups. Her campaign must be flustered by this information, but her husband Bill still swears that a little Viagra will help get her polls rising again in no time.
Senator John McCain still feels he's owed an apology for Trump's captured comment. The Donald has made it clear he doesn't currently plan to apologize for his comment. Maybe a compromise is in order. Trump should apologize for his comments right after McCain apologizes for being a lousy senator.
At a press conference on Monday, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said he no longer wants the city to do business with Donald Trump because of his recent comments. Meanwhile, in a better but alternate universe, before the presser ended, Trump announced he had just purchased the entire city and de Blasio had been fired.
President Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry have been taking heat for not securing the release of several American prisoners as part of the Iranian nuke deal. At a congressional hearing this week, Kerry bluntly told the committee that if the prisoners' release had been part of the deal, it would have ruined the administration's record of not winning a single concession from Iran, so they couldn't risk it.
With regard to immigration laws and the illegal alien killing of Catherine Steinle, a Democratic congressman said this week not to punish others for the crimes of a few. So surely he'll extend that same logic to not calling for more gun control in the wake of the Louisiana movie theater shooting by a white guy, right?
Right. President Obama reluctantly ordered flags lowered to half staff on Tuesday after nearly the entire country had already done it for him. He also read a hollow, forced statement about how united and strong America stands against this type of violence. Thank God he's secured our borders so this type of attack can't happen again.
Or not. And that is your weekend update for this Sunday, July 26, 2015. And thank you again, Eric Williams at the barbedwiresatire.com for giving it to us. So, Lou.
Yeah, Stacey, I think we're caught in Trumpkinville.
We're caught in Trumpkinville. Yes, we got potentially worse this week, hasn't it?
It is, well, it's amazing, it's funny, it's ridiculous, it's hilarious, it's frustrating, it's everything Donald Trump has ever been, all rolled into one and inserted into a political campaign.
While his political consultant curls up in the fetal position in a corner and sucks his thumb. Right,
and his communications people are standing in the wings every time he makes a speech, turning red and gritting their teeth.
Yeah, but so I mentioned something at the beginning of the show, and this is called the conservative movement. This is a term that has popped up on social media in the last 5 or 6 days, and has attacked such great conservative voices as R.B. Pundit, the Rick Wilson, Jay Caruso, Eric Erickson, Robert Stacey McCain, and some others. And basically what this hashtag, the people that are using this hashtag, are white power folks who very much like Mr. Trump's stance on immigration. And they are really inserting themselves into the dialogue around him in a very, I don't know, Lou, I would say aggressive way.
Yeah, an extremely aggressive way. I think that was the whole point behind creating this word, because they just created it out of a word in the Urban Dictionary. And I mean, if you can't do any better than that, you might as well just go home, right? Just delete your Twitter account because you're too lame to even be on Twitter. But they just created it out of thin air just to be combative. And I mean, Eric Erickson took a lot of heat for it, but I think I agree with him. It came from a very racist corner of Twitter that we know very well.
Yep, and several people are actually saying that now. And if you look at a lot of the accounts that are, spewing this term, they're all less than 100 followers, some of them less than 10. They're accounts created solely for the purpose of harassment. But what I find even funnier, Lou, is Mr. Trump, who has been praised for his social media prowess because he's such a good troll, isn't recognizing these folks for what they are and is actually quote tweeting them when they say how great he is.
Right. How many times have we had the Twitter dumb conversation, right? I mean, I've never seen a campaign as Twitter dumb as his is, because they can't even figure out when they're talking to a troll. I mean,
well,
really,
and not just a troll, really someone that doesn't reflect well on him or the campaign. I mean, I as bombastic and direct and as much as he is willing to be not politically correct, I do not think these are the people he would want repping him on social media, and now they're everywhere.
absolutely, they're all over his timeline because he's quoting them. And here's just an example of one of their profiles. This is the entire profile description. The link below is clickbait, and retweets are done by clicking. That is their profile. No, that's not a troll with that's not a troll or a fake account at all. No.
There's just, if you go through and look, there is just any number of these very small, and even what I found this morning when I looked, some really unapologetic liberals.
Totally.
I mean, there were a couple that actually had Unite Blue in their profile.
Which really makes you wonder, right? I mean,
It does.
If you're not wondering about him at this point, you really have your head in the sand.
Well, I mean, what's even scarier than that, and I think, you and I talked about it, is the poll numbers are going up for him. And it seems like every fist fight he gets into, they continue to rise. And what is most shocking to me, I guess, is that, and I understand the anger that he's tapping into. I'm not happy about illegal immigration. I would like very different regulations and very different, enforcement. But, at the same time, I want a complete, I can't say comprehensive and related to immigration because everybody thinks that means amnesty, and that's not what I mean.
It's been redefined like a lot of other
Yeah, but I want a complete plan. And building a wall with Mexico isn't a complete plan.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it than that. And I think what is actually disturbing me the most is that every other candidate is now having to answer how they feel about all of his press.
Well, right, exactly, and because it very much is about the press, right? So, and you had mentioned even Fox News, the first question out of their mouth for every single candidate that they have on their shows is, how do you feel about what Trump has said about you? Well, who cares? Trump talks about everybody. That's what Trump does. He's always done it. It's nothing new. We don't care what they think about what Trump said. We care about their policy positions. And why is the press buying into the fact that we're too stupid to know better?
Well, and it's not just that, but it's almost like, so they have, and I think our great producer, Rick, hi Rick, has a clip of Marco Rubio. There was no discussion from Trump on Marco Rubio up to that point. But of course, it's almost like the press is picking fights for him for the entertainment value.
Well, yeah, it's all about selling advertising. It doesn't matter if you are a news network.
Well, and, Rick, if you could just go ahead and play that clip, from Mark Rubio, just, getting a sense of how the press is framing these questions and what the other candidates are being held account for.
You would like to be president of the United States. So would Donald Trump. He's making a lot of waves. It started a couple of weeks ago when he made the comments about immigration. Now it seems like everybody's talking about immigration. First of all, yesterday we heard the Donald, who's, by the way, going to join us in about 20 minutes, Lindsey Graham was in his crosshairs. Are you worried he might make you his next target?
Well, he might.
Over immigration?
He said things about me already before. Look, here's the bottom. Immigration is a legitimate issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big problem for the country. You have people that are committing crimes. They're deported. We allow them back in, and then we have cities that refuse to report them. Legitimate issue. We have a porous border, meaning not just the border with Mexico, but 40% of people in this country illegally are overstaying visas. Legitimate issue. Broken legal immigration issue. We're accepting people on the basis of who they know. They have a relative living here, not what they can contribute.
So you
Legitimate
and Donald Trump are on the same page on all this.
But here's what's so important to me. The presidency of the United States is not just the top government official. It is the leader of our people and of our nation as well. It is important that we have to conduct the presidency has to be done in a dignified way with a level of class.
Do you believe Donald Trump can do that?
I don't think that the way he's behaved over the last few weeks is either dignified or worthy of the office that he seeks. We already have a president now that has no class. I mean, we have a president now that does selfie stick videos, that invites YouTube stars there, people that eat cereal out of a bathtub, that accuses his. You just saw the interview he did right now, where he goes on comedy shows to talk about something as serious as Iran. The list goes on and on. It is important for us to have a presidency that restores dignity and class to the White House. And I don't believe that some of the language that Mr. Trump is employing is worthy of the office. I just do not.
Right. But there's something.
God bless Marco Rubio. He says exactly,
God bless him.
Exactly what I've been saying all along is Donald Trump is the Obama on the right. He's the narcissist to the right.
There's actually been several articles comparing the two, their past statements, their behavior, their kind of I, me, I can do this better than anyone else, just looking at his comments around the Iran deal. If I was sitting at the table, well, you know what? As president of the United States, you're not going to sit at the table. That's not how this works. Okay.
Exactly.
But, back when Obama was running, he didn't need speechwriters because he wrote better speeches than anyone else. He didn't need, policy advisors because he was more up on policy than they were.
He doesn't even need a morning briefing. Obama doesn't even need his morning national security briefing.
The same kind of behavior is, and then I see him this morning and Donald Trump is referring to himself in the third person. I think people who do that are a little insane. But
Bob Dole doesn't do that. Bob Dole wants to be president. Did it not with Bob Dole? That didn't work out too well. And talk about Obama-type behavior, what he did in Iowa with the Des Moines Register.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's like Clinton, Obama all over. I don't like what you said about me, so you can't cover my event.
Yep, and if you do, I'm going to rope you off so you can't get close enough to ask me a question, right? And so this is where they go wrong. They're like a terrorist organization where they totally miscalculate the backlash, right? So the press will not cede their power the way that Congress has. And the fact that these political campaigns think that, and politicians think that they can control the press without any backlash. I mean, look at what they did over the course of the Obama administration. Press organizations that really hate each other, talk about each other, and don't agree on anything and compete with each other came together to say, oh, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Well, and, I'm no huge fan of the mainstream media. The agenda is clear, but at the same time, not only is he saying, sorry, Des Moines Register, I don't like the editorial you wrote on me, he's attacking mainstream journalists, on social media all the time. Jonah Goldberg, Kevin Williamson, Ron Fournier, and, today says that only 35% of political reporters are worth anything. 65% are just garbage. I mean, that was a comment he made on a news show.
And again, that is just like the way you have to play it in the tri-state market in New York City. And they still have not gotten their head out of their local market, which goes back to that other thing that I've been saying is I don't think that he's serious. I think he'll drop out before Iowa. Because you don't cut you don't cut the Des Moines Register out of your press pool in Iowa if you are serious about the caucus in Iowa.
Well, and not only that, there's a bunch of noise out there now about how he's going to run, as a third-party candidate. Speaking to that, yes, he has a lot of money, but that costs an inordinate amount of money. And you need a political organization to do it. My understanding is he doesn't even have a ground team in Iowa right now.
They're saying he doesn't have a ground team anywhere, and he might have one, in New York City, but that's not going to get you that's not going to win you the primary.
Well,
if you did, go ahead.
I was going to say, and there's been several articles out there. You don't just get on the ballot as a third-party candidate. You have to have a certain number of signatures. Law varies from state to state as to how many signatures you have to gather, and you have to have a political organization to do that.
You have to have a bigger organization to get on the ballot as a third-party candidate, really a tighter organization than you do to run as a candidate, especially as one of 16 or 17 candidates. You've got to get on the ballot in at least every important state to even think about getting close to enough votes. So there's no way he can do this without a ground game, and he's not even moving in that direction to put one together from what I understand.
Yep. Well, and then, I guess the thing that I'm finding really interesting as well is it's almost like his campaign is almost like a one by one by one. So, we've attacked Lindsey Graham. Who cares? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham.
He's not viable, and he's not going to be viable, so what's the point?
Exactly. You attack John McCain, who's a sitting senator in Arizona with a primary candidate. He shouldn't even be part of the 2016 discussion.
Right.
Then, you go after Rubio. You go after Walker. And he went after Walker and said, I was so glad Walker's publicity person made some comments about me because now I can attack him. That was a quote on mainstream news media this morning.
Yeah, so let's get to the you were posed a question actually before the show on Twitter from Dr. Randy Arrington, and this is specifically for you, Stacey. Do you see a value in Trump's candidacy? So before we get out of this segment, go for it. Do you see a value, and if so, why or why not?
For me personally, no. I obviously have a position on immigration, which actually is further to the right than Donald Trump's in terms of what I would say we need to do to fix the problem. And I think several candidates had brought it up as an issue already. They didn't do it in such bombastic and caustic language and offending an entire ethnic group. And maybe that's really what people who are thinking he's benefiting it are looking at, for let's poke some people we don't like in the eye. The left's been doing it long enough for us. I do not like the tactics of the progressive left. I see Donald Trump using the tactics of the progressive left. So if I am going to bash the Obama administration for doing it, why am I going to be okay with a GOP nominee doing it? That would be the most hypocritical thing I could possibly do in my mind. And to make another point, if you look at research and polling around women in the political process, his preferred style of communication is not what the vast majority of women like. I think part of the reason conservatism and the GOP have had, some problems with getting female and women voter buy-in in the past is because we too tend to be a little bit more caustic. We have a lot more discussion within the party than the Democrats do. And if you look at it, women don't generally like the vitriol. His vitriol is up 10 points. I'm one of the more, I guess, assertive women I know. I don't back down from a conflict, but at the same time, I think in the political sphere and in the public eye, there's a way you do it. And, I think Marco Rubio's response was perfect.
Yeah, I loved Rubio's response. I think that the interesting thing is that you haven't heard a lot of response from Donald, which makes me think that Rubio that he knows what Rubio says is true. And my theory on it is that he's really just playing to his local market. He's not serious about being president. He plans to drop out. He's trying to affect the race more than he was able to last time. And do I think it's good? Well, I think that remains to be seen, whether he has a value or not. It's going to be determined in the end.
All right. Well, and with that, we are wrapping up the Donald.
Yay.
And in the second segment, we will actually be talking about the GOP debates and what Fox and CNN are doing and why we think maybe there was a better way to get it done. So we will be back in just a few minutes.
Turn up the sound and rip off the knobs. You're listening to K98Talk.com, the leader in Internet radio.
Are you conservative in a world of liberal?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not alone. Hey, I'm Daniel Stafford, host of the Stafford Voice, and I'd like to invite you to tune in each Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern, where I'll break down the events of the week, and together we'll learn about how they affect you. So, sit back and get ready for the good, the bad, and the ugly of talk radio right here on K98 Talk.
Our military service members volunteer to protect us in the most dangerous places around the world. They step up. And when they are severely ill or injured, returning to their families is only the beginning of their long road home. Beyond all the hospitals and doctors and surgeries they need just to survive, they also deserve whatever they need to truly live. All the in-home care and day-to-day help they need to live independently, on their own terms. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs were established to provide these brave men and women whatever they need to continue their fight for independence, at no cost, for life. So many of them need us, and it's time for a grateful nation to step up. Find out how you can do your part at findwwp.org.
And we are back. Welcome back to Bloody Marys and Broadsheets with me, Stacy. And this Sunday, I am sitting here with Lou, host of Red Nation Rising Radio on Thursday nights. What time? 8 o'clock Eastern Standard.
Thursdays.
Yep, Thursdays, 8 o'clock Eastern. And Lou, actually, you and I are going to be taking on a new project here shortly, yes?
Yes, we are. We're going to do a girls' night out.
We're going to do a girls' show every Monday and Wednesday evening, and we will be asking other ladies to join us in a roundtable format, other great conservative voices and females in the political sphere. And we will be starting mid-August with what we call a back-to-school special.
Where we're going to wrap up all the craziness that already happened that we missed.
Yeah, well, while you were all at the beach and on vacation with your families, we're going to go ahead and wrap up, some of the highlights of the summer and start to preview what we can look forward to from a congressional perspective in the fall. The show, probably a little more politics and policy. Lou and I tend to take a very interested approach to watching what our hoople heads in DC are doing on C-SPAN. And, a lot of times there's things going on in Congress that the rest of us aren't aware of. So, great segment called Guess What Congress Did to You This Week. We got to really start reining these guys in, and the process is complex and it's long.
Right.
So.
Yeah, guess what you missed while the Donald was bloviating?
Bloviating?
Yes.
Oh. Speaking of bloviating, we have some debates coming up here. I guess while you and I are down at Red State, we actually get to go to a debate watch party. And the first one will be on Fox. And the method they have come up with, I think, is resonating less and less with folks as we move closer and closer to the event. I'm seeing a lot more questions and why this and why that, et cetera, et cetera. And basically what they've done is they've decided to take both Fox and CNN have decided to take a summary of the polls. So I could not find anything. Lou, could you? Are they just using a certain selection of polls, or are they doing everything on the RCP average? I couldn't find that level of detail.
The last official statement that I saw that was that it is the RCP average that they're taking, and you and I talked about the margin of error on some of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the margin of error becomes especially important when you have this group at the bottom who is so close in terms of percentage. There is no discernible difference in polling between number 10 and number 11. There's actually no discernible difference in the polling if you look at the margin of error between number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I mean, and when you start looking at the polls that RCP will include, and RCP takes a very agnostic view of the field of these things, they include everything. So the CNN ABC poll that polled 324 likely voters is going to be included in that. That's the poll. There is no nod to the methodology behind any of these polls, and polling can be grossly inaccurate.
Yeah, it really reminds me of one of my doctors and his assessment of certain trash can diagnostics, because they have no pathology behind them, and it's a little bit the same thing. So they're diagnosing the race basically as early as they possibly could with no real pathology behind it. It's really kind of mind blowing. But we talked about it might be good for some of those people in the end, right?
Yeah, actually a really interesting article. I believe it was by Noah Worthman on Commentary Magazine. Another great follow. If you don't read them, check them out. And he was talking because there's going to be, on Fox anyway, Fox will allow those who don't make the main debate stage to have a separate debate, same questions, little shorter time, because I think there's actually fewer of them, so it'll be 60 minutes rather than 90. But his contention is that looking at who was possibly going to be in which debate at that point in time, that he felt the secondary debate would actually be a lot deeper on policy, a lot deeper on the candidate's actual perspective on a whole host of issues that maybe we hadn't heard before, because they're all stumping their big issues, right? So Carly Fiorina's tends to be big government, what she would do to go in there and chop it down. Rand Paul's is tax, Rubio's is a lot of foreign policy at this point. Ted Cruz's immigration. So they all kind of have their pet issues, if you will, that they've been stumping on. But in the debate, they're going to have to answer questions that, are a little broader than that. And I'm not saying all the candidates don't have a bigger range, but, basically the contention there is that, the main debate stage may devolve into something less than productive. And
I think it will. I think you're absolutely right about that, especially with Trump on the stage.
Mm-hmm. And that the secondary debate is actually going to give the person that wins that a chance to shine.
Yeah, Noah's article was one of those rare articles that I run across that I really agree with it, especially with regards to, this current field of candidates in the presidential campaign or on the GOP side. And if you look at the people that are going to be in that second tier debate, right, it's Fiorina, it's Bobby Jindal, it's Kasich, Santorum, Pataki, Rand Paul.
We can forget about Pataki.
Well, and he's right. He's not going to be important in the long run, but some of them are. Fiorina, Bobby Jindal, Rand Paul. These are guys that we're going to see, in my opinion, toward the top of the heat as we get toward the end of the primary season. So it's not even just that they're better on policy, from my opinion, or that, and Ted Cruz, as well, or that they speak more on policy, or they're talking more about the difference between conservative versus, progressive or Democrat policies. It's that these people are more likely to be at the top of the heat at the end of the race. And, you can go back to the last 2 presidential races and look who was leading at this point in the game. And they weren't the people that were ultimately nominated. Most of them had dropped out by New Hampshire, or at least...
You mean Howard Dean was never president?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Did you miss that? I hate to be the one to break it.
Michelle Bachmann? She didn't win?
No, sorry. No, we haven't had our first woman president yet. Yeah. So, I really think it's going to be a better debate, not because, and I think it's going to end up more important because I think the people on that stage in that second tier debate are more likely to be at the top of the heap later in the race.
Well, and I mean, certainly for political nerds like you and myself, we're going to be very interested in a debate about policy. But, I think there was another interesting article with an interesting perspective about how conservatives, decry, I guess, for lack of a better term, decry the cult of celebrity over on the left, but they are just as vulnerable to it. And are you entertained? We're so happy if there's a Hollywood star that comes out of the closet and says, I am a conservative, that we, dance around. But, at the same time, we are just as susceptible to it on the right, maybe not in the same frequency. But I think the example they used was Clint Eastwood speaking at the Republican National Convention.
Yes.
That it was a horrible speech. It had no substance. They didn't test his remarks before he came out on the stage. They had no idea what he was going to say, and neither did he. We were just so happy to have him there that we let him speak at the convention.
Yeah, and it was funny, but it was also a complete unknown, which is your point, right? Mm-hmm. They don't at that level. You never fail to vet a speaker and what the speaker is going to talk about. Except if it's Clint Eastwood or someone like that, or I don't know if they'd even give Kevin Sorbo that latitude, but they'd probably certainly offer. So I think that was a great point too. I don't think it does a service.
I thought originally Sorbo was on to speak at CPAC, actually.
Yeah, he may. So I mean, we'll find out. Or are you betting the comments? You're getting a speech like you do every other speaker. Mm-hmm. Or are you just gonna let him say whatever he wants to? I mean, it's a great point. We're just as susceptible on the right to the cult of personality in Hollywood.
Because I'm culturally ignorant when it comes to media and movies. I'm not a big TV watcher. I'm don't often watch movies as a general rule. But there's this thing called Snarkado or some movie. It was number 3 and it was on the other night. I don't know. Sharknado, something like that. I'm sitting there watching all of this stuff go on Twitter, and the next thing I see is Ian Ziering. Does anybody remember who Ian Ziering is? Because I do.
Nah.
He played the dumb football player on Beverly Hills 90210.
Okay.
If you know the show I'm talking about, you're old. Okay? He's out there. They're asking him on CNN if he thinks Donald Trump is a good candidate, and put it out there like it's an endorsement. Some dude who's running a B movie, who used to play on a serial drama about teenagers, and we're putting that out there like that means something. I'm like, that's news? That's news? That's almost as much as I care about what Josh Whedon has to say.
Right.
He did Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You know? No. Not that these people don't have political perspective, not that they don't have opinions, but they're certainly not watching the process.
Well, and that is the problem right there, right? So you have that cult of personality. They bring people on shows to talk about their movie, and then they ask them about politics, and they're going to try to say something to prove that they're not stupid, but you know how that goes. The more you try to prove you're not stupid, the more you show you are.
Oh, I am being mocked in the chat room because I don't know what that stupid movie with the sharks or the snarks or whatever the heck it was. I just know it was number 3. Yeah. I love you, Beaker.
Come on, Beaker, now. Don't give Stacey a hard time. But it's crazy. It's insane that, that we would even care. It's like, Shaun of the Dead that doesn't like the Prime Minister. Well, let's get rid of the Prime Minister. It's that stupid. Look at another country and see what the current Doctor Who is not happy with the British government. Bring down the government. I mean, it's stupid.
Well, and, I think as we go into the debates, I saw a lot of, and it's kind of a done deal now. It's not going to change. Do you see any potential negatives for how they have chosen to segregate this as kind of first tier, second tier? I mean, I'm almost offended that this early in the race, they think they can confidently say that, given history and 4, 8, 12.
Right. I see a negative for any serious candidate that has to be in the first tier debate and on the stage with the mudslinging that's going to most likely go on with Donald there. I'd like to see him really prepare and really be serious about it and realize that what he's doing is extremely important to the country. Maybe he truly feels that way. Maybe he's doing what he feels like is right for everyone. But I just feel like he's doing what he feels like he is right for the Donald. I'd like to see him change that attitude. Anybody that's in the first tier debate and on the stage with him, yes, I see a downside for them.
Well, and the other thing I want to hear is policy.
Right.
So you've talked about, you've started a big conversation on immigration, and I would argue he wasn't the first one to start it. Ted Cruz has been talking about it for a long time. And, so has Rand Paul in terms of the executive order. So he wasn't the first person to bring it up by any stretch of the mark, but he's started what has turned into a very contentious national debate because of some of the language he chose to use. What is your policy on it? And don't talk to me about how you're going to make Mexico pay for a wall.
Right. And I think that's what irritates me the most is it's like, it reminds me of some interviews that I've done that I never do in real life, but I do them in media training, where at the end, the reporter drops a bomb on you and runs and gives you absolutely no opportunity to respond to it. That's what he does with policy. He drops a bomb and runs and lets everybody else fight it out. Mm-hmm. And that's driving me crazy. One of the ABC article that was about him, he made a really salient point about Hillary, and it got totally lost in the mudslinging with the other candidates. And I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen in the debate. The mudslinging is going to completely overwhelm anything that we do here about policy.
Well, and I think, I use this quote on Twitter occasionally, and I get killed for it. I agree with Bill Maher on one thing, too. Bill Maher is about as anti-radical Islam as you can possibly be. He is very caustic in his language about the existential threat these people present, and he has been lambasted by the folks on the left for doing so. So I agree with Bill Maher on one thing. I agree to some extent with Donald Trump's position on immigration. Don't agree with how he presented it or his potential solution as the be-all, end-all. But, there has to be more to it than that. And if you listen to what Marco Rubio said in that clip we played this morning, 40% of illegal immigration comes in through a broken visa system. There are so many arms and legs to that problem that aren't being addressed in the current debate that I want to hear more. Tell me your complete solution.
And back to the point, that's what we're going to hear in Tier 2, and it's going to get completely buried in Tier 1. So back to Noah's point and Noah being right, I believe he's absolutely right about a second tier debate really being the one to watch.
Well, and I just think it was lazy on Fox's part.
And I told you this. It's like they got a bunch of print editors in the room and asked the print editors how they should do it because it's so 20th century. It's like that was 15 years ago. Can we do something that's a little more 21st century with this and get more buy-in from more people? But they were either afraid to do it or too lazy to do it, or they were talking to people who were just still stuck in the 20th century.
I know. And I mean, if you think about it, and actually what I saw that was very interesting is there was an organization, and it escapes me right now, that actually went out and polled politically active people on the right. So these are people who have worked with campaigns, work in the media, are politically active and watching this campaign unfold in a detailed kind of way. One of the vetting questions they asked him is, do you feel comfortable discussing this candidate in terms of policy positions? And they went down the list, and if you weren't at least 80% comfortable with knowing what their policy positions were, you were kicked out of the survey group. So they got people that were informed and felt they were informed on policy, been on the right. The polling of that group, politically active group, completely different. Completely different. Walker runs away with it, and Rubio is second.
Well, and that's no surprise, right? So it's, and you see the same kind of difference when you poll everybody versus when you poll likely voters. So and that's no surprise. It would have made much more sense for them to focus on polls with, that we're a little more targeted. And why would you poll generally a poll with Democrats and Republicans on who they want to see in the GOP debate? Right there, you're tainting your pool.
Well, not only that, but it shouldn't have been a default single choice. There are several people I would like to see in the debate. Really, all Fox had to do was put all the candidates on a page and say, who would you most like to see in the debate? Pick 10.
Right.
And, if you had to take an action or do an activity to become part of the process and have voice, then it makes more sense than just calling random people. I mean, I am a very likely voter. I have never been polled. Not once in my life.
I can say that I have, but it does not happen very often. But I have a couple of times, and I'll be the first one to admit that I like to mess with them a little bit, and I doubt I'm not.
Not you.
Of course, just a little bit, but I'm sure I'm not the only one. So that's the other thing to consider. I mean, why polls are just not that accurate, because how do you know if you got that voter or if you actually got their 17-year-old and they're just messing with you?
Yeah, well, polls told me that David Perdue was going to lose to Michelle Nunn up till Election Day here in Georgia, and they were flat out wrong by about 7 points. So I don't trust him, and I think it was a bad way to go. We're going to take another quick break right here, and we will be back in just a few minutes, and we're going to talk about Hillary and the Inspector Generals.
You have found the best place on the internet by tuning into K98Talk.com, where it is our mission to broadcast the very best variety programming, giving you a balance of information from every angle and letting you decide. We are here to serve our listening audience with a proven track record. So stay with K98Talk.com, and we will keep you informed.
Red Nation Rising brings you Town Hall Radio.
From a single tweet to 3 million a month, our community is a force to be reckoned with on social media.
So don't miss our show, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Our chat room is our co-host, and you ask the question.
Join us and be heard.
So get ready to sound off on Red Nation Rising Radio. No one else is going to do it for you.
There's a wild, wild whisper blowing in the wind, calling out my name like a long lost friend.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
Welcome back. And now we're going to move on to an interesting topic that broke on Thursday night in the New York Times, which they had to edit and make some adjustments to based on some feedback from, in my opinion, the Clinton campaign itself. Because really, you know, they have a machine over there at the Times that's pretty epic. But
yeah, I think I dug up how it happened too, Stacey.
Oh, wow. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell a little bit about the story then?
Okay, so the New York Times, what was their original clickbait title to their story? It was that, what did they say, Stacey?
They said that there were the inspector generals had requested criminal investigation into Hillary's use of email was basically what the title said.
Yes. So, stepping back and looking at it from what happens and digging up some of the breaking news reports and watching those, this is what it looks like it happened. So the IGs issued a press release to say that they had called for a criminal investigation. Ed Henry from Fox News was reporting this, 2 to 3 p.m. Live, basically from his coverage of the Clinton campaign, because he's covering the Clinton campaign for Fox. And then within about an hour, the title had changed on the headline, which was Hillary accepts the invitation, right? Mm-hmm. She accepts an invitation to talk to the committee. And the story, the presentation from Fox News and from Ed Henry changed kind of in the same vein. So I can just see this happening in my head because I will admit to having done this, is they reported initially on the criminal investigation. Someone from Hillary's press team walks over and says, this isn't exactly accurate. This is what actually happened, which is Trey Gowdy picked up the phone, called the Clinton office and said, we'd like for you to come speak to us, which means if you don't, we'll subpoena you. So she got ahead of a subpoena by a couple of seconds. And so her press team was able to tweak that messaging, and they did it on the ground there as people were reporting the breaking news, and that's how it got changed. Now, this is analysis. It's a theory from a former public relations person who did it for 10 years, and I can't tell you how many times I've done that exact same thing. It's called correcting misinformation from your perspective, right?
Right. Well, I think one of the news stories about her that was massaged was certainly her appearance or accepting an invitation from the Benghazi committee. Then they did on Thursday night again have that whole article in the New York Times. I think we might have actually been on the phone when it broke or came through my news feed, where two inspector generals, which are independent inspectors that look at government processes, and they had gone to the DOJ and said that their assessment was because classified information had come out of the emails that were provided by state, that something had either gone on with Miss Clinton using a personal email account for classified information, or in the State Department's handling of it. That quickly got shoved under the door, and the actual content of the story was changed to eliminate the potential for criminal behavior on the part of Hillary Clinton. And the weird thing about what happened with that is they actually changed the URL to the article, which never happens. And they didn't announce a reason for the correction. Normally, when media stories are corrected, you have an editor's note or a correction notice at the bottom of the story. Here's what happened, after the original content was written. That didn't happen in this case.
Unless, and if the media that you're working with is extremely friendly, sometimes they won't do that. If you can convince them that the information is wrong and it needs to be tweaked for their own credibility, but you got to have a tight relationship with whoever you're working with to make that happen.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the relationship between the New York Times and the Clinton machine has been pretty well documented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, they donated to her foundation. She donated to their poverty initiatives.
And if you were fast enough to catch the first story, like you said, we were on the phone when it broke, and we were like, wow. So we caught the first story. If you were quick enough to catch the first story and see the difference between the two, you're like, this obvious press office correction.
Well, obvious press office correction, and folks, when I've seen the press on it, et cetera, they're saying, the DOJ isn't going to move on this. They're never going to do anything. My personal assessment is the Democrats are getting very nervous about Hillary's poll numbers bottoming out. I mean, her, it was either honesty or untrustworthiness today is in the high 50s, almost 60%. The only one who is considered least trustworthy than Hillary Clinton is actually Donald Trump. He's at 60. But when you take a look at kind of what's going on with her numbers, you have Bernie Sanders continuing to rise in the polls. And I think Bernie addresses the left's anger. He's kind of the opposite there.
Right, the corporate that anti-corporate anger.
I personally don't think that Obama cares if Hillary Clinton is president. I think there's animosity there. I think there has been since they ran against each other in the primary. I think he made her Secretary of State to appeal to a certain portion of the Democratic Party. But there is no great love or respect there. I mean, you can tell with their own nonverbals when you see them together. That's not a warm relationship. That's not like the relationship he has with Elizabeth Warren.
Absolutely not. And I believe everything that they've done together is part of a deal. It's part of a bigger, kind of party-led deal, and it's not. It doesn't have anything to do with their relationship or anything else. And of course, I don't think that he did it to appeal to anybody, because I believe that he feels like he appeals to everyone.
Of course.
Yes. I think he thinks everyone loves him except for people who watch Fox News.
Yeah. So my ultimate assessment is if there's something valid, I would not be at all surprised to see the DOJ pick it up.
Well, and we talked about this too. This is we don't have a choice situation, right? So they didn't have a choice. The IGs really didn't have a choice, I don't believe, considering what they probably found, rather than to refer it. The New York Times, after finding out that they referred it, didn't have a choice but to print the story. Props to the IGs for being independent and realizing that they're as accountable to Congress as they are to anyone.
Yep.
My gut tells me that when we find out what's in it, it is or what's going on there. It was really a we don't have another choice situation. They didn't have a choice.
Absolutely. And I like Ron Fournier's perspective on it the best. All she has to do is turn over the server.
And she hasn't. So, there's something on it that she
Absolutely
doesn't want us to see.
Absolutely. If she would just turn over the server. I mean, again, Ron, having covered these people for years, has been extremely caustic. And in the last couple of days, it's gotten even worse. So I don't think we've heard the end of it, but it will certainly continue to unfold. And I love the woman from Emily's List this morning on Fox, chatting with Carly Fiorina and the host, saying that Hillary Clinton is doing exactly the right thing by focusing on policy and what she's going to do for the American people, and all these other things are just extraneous distractions and right-wing conspiracies.
Oh, of course they're right-wing conspiracies, because you can tell by the complement of candidates and how well that they're getting along, how good they are at conspiring with one another. So, yeah, vast right-wing conspiracy makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like that white billionaire that's going around and paying people to change the autopsy results on police instigated shootings. So, Anyway.
That guy, yeah.
Well, Lou, it's been an hour, a quick one at that.
Fun one.
So there you go. And again, you can catch Lou on Thursday nights on Red Nation Rising Radio. And as always, JD will be back from the family reunion on Tuesday for Game On, and again on Thursday. So we will see you then. And until then, Lou, anything you're working on?
Yeah, we're working on lots of stuff, Stacey. You know that. We Monday night at 8 o'clock, we're going to do that hashtag no Carly, no Frida, no peace, right?
Yep, we are.
Monday night at 8 o'clock, join us for hashtag no Carly, no peace. She needs to be in the top tier debate. It would make it a much better debate. We're probably not going to get her there, but heck, we're going to do the hashtag thing anyway, just for fun. And and we're working on a show that's going to start in mid-August. I'm really excited about it because we need to be on the radio more, Stacey. We're not on the radio nearly enough.
No, I'm not. Good Lord. And I will be subbing in this week with our good friend Jody over on the Red Wine Show. I will be subbing in for Diane, so I will be on an additional evening this week, Wednesday evening at 9. So, anyway, Rick.
Thanks, Rick. Great being with you guys this morning. It was really fun.
If it's Sunday, it's Bloody Marys and Broadsheets.
We're your cure from your weekly news hangover.
Thank you for taking it easy with us. You can find our show account on Twitter at JD and Stacy, or send us your interesting news story of the week to Game On War, that's WAAR, @gmail.com.
And you can find me on Twitter at Scott's Fire and on Facebook at Stacy Lennox.
And you can find me on the Twitters at GameOnJD.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Giggity, 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 let's have sex.